it's just going to take a minute to queue up, and I'm going to start the webinar to bring participants in. So. Okay, I think we are now ready, Madam Mayor.
Okay, and the only person we're missing is Cindy Kelsey, and she may be coming in after a few moments. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order on this beautiful, rainy, cool October day. We have our first motion is to, moved by Bill and seconded by Tom, that council suspend the rules of the procedural bylaw in order to allow the presentation from Kelly Pender and Joe Gallivan on the final draft of the Frontenac Municipal Services Corporation business case study and the delegation from Rhonda Kimberly Young and Sandy Robertson regarding the pickleball court be moved up in the agenda to follow the mayor's remarks. And further, the council approved the agenda for the regular council meeting held October the 26th, 2021 as presented or amended. Kathy?
There's some amendments, Madam Mayor. Under staff reports, which is number 8D, and it's under the Treasury. It's a request to use community halls. Also, under number 15, under new business, the Snowmobile Club of Snow Road request. Also on number 16, there is one additional personnel matters about identifiable individual. And that's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Okay, so to adopt the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Carried. Is there any disclosure, pecuniary interest, or general nature thereof of any item on tonight's agenda by any member of council? Nikki?
I'm not sure, Kathy, could you clarify if the hall usage, if I need to declare conflict on it or not?
It's to deal with the youth program.
So
it's basically, it's wanting to know whether or not they have to pay for the hall. I mean, you're not
is it a direct or indirect pecuniary interest to you?
Yes, it would be indirect.
It would be, yeah, indirect. Okay.
Then you're declaring?
Yes, please.
Perfect.
Okay. We'll note that, and Kathy will get paperwork that you'll need to have filed with the clerk.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so one declaration. Okay, I have a motion moved by Nikki and seconded by Sherry that council approve the minutes of the regular council meeting held October the 12th, 2021 as presented. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor? Carried. Mayor's remarks, I am going to skip over that today because this is the second meeting of the day with county council budget 2 days in a row. So I can't remember what I've done in the last 2 weeks. So Deputy Mayor Gowdy, do you have anything to add?
Mine's more of a question. I was just wondering, what the plan was to go back into in-person meetings now that the capacity limits have lifted.
I think Kathy can answer that with the procedural bylaw question and the hall renovations. Those are the two things we're waiting on.
We're waiting on, yes, because the ramp is not finished yet for the hall. So I am looking at that. We're hoping, if not certainly for the first meeting in November, probably the 2nd.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay. Just one interesting comment to that. We actually at county have had more people watching and listening to our meetings than we ever had them to come in person. So live streaming has really been a success for municipal government all the way around. So now that we've got the owl, we can definitely do that with our council meetings as well, which was another delay of getting back into in-person. Okay, we have moved our delegations up, and our first delegation is Kelly Pender and Joe Gallivan, who are no strangers to our council meetings. Welcome to you both. And who's going to lead?
Well, thank you, Mayor. I'll start and then Joe can fill in with the real details. How's that?
Okay.
I just refer council to the reports beginning on page 15 of your agenda with respect to the Municipal Service Corporation. And as council will remember, this issue has been going on for a couple of years now, and we're getting near the point where we're going to have to make some decisions. Tonight's meeting isn't about making that final decision. It's to seek your input on the business case study, which is a requirement of the Municipal Act, and B, to provide any direction to the governance committee, which Mayor Smith sits on, whether there's any changes you'd like to see in the business plan. And subject to all of that, the Municipal Act requires us to post this for public comment, and we're going to post it for 30 days once the governance committee has passed it. So at this point, both North Frontenac and Frontenac Islands have dealt with it at this interim stage and have passed motions to have it go on to public input. And I believe South Frontenac will be dealing with it next Tuesday. So I'll turn it over to Joe to provide you with a bit of background on how we got here. And certainly we're here to answer any questions and to help you through this process. Joe?
Kelly, and good afternoon, Mayor and members of council and staff. Just quickly give you a bit of background. As you may recall, we've been working on trying to look at the viability of communal services throughout Frontenac for about 3 or 4 years now, and recognizing that most municipalities will never be able to afford the cost of installing municipal water and sewer in your villages, and that this is truly an alternative. So the work that we did and which was endorsed by County Council in June of 2019 made it clear that there is definitely the engineering technology is there. We can figure out the land use planning tools, and it could be a major game changer to allowing village revitalization, in particular throughout Frontenac. And as you know, at your last council meeting, you endorsed hiring Photon consultants to start the work on the communal services viability for the school site. That could potentially be the groundbreaker across the county as the pilot project. For council's information, we start that work this Friday afternoon with Township staff and myself with consultants. Will be doing a site visit and a walk around through the village, because part of the proposal that they submitted, the consultants are going to be looking at the viability of using water from Charlotte Lake rather than the well on site to allow for redevelopment of that site. And that's certainly permitted by the Ministry of Environment. So if that's the case, then when they come and speak to you and the public early in 2022, they'll talk about not only the potential for what the redevelopment will look like and the density will look like on the school site, but what other opportunities you may have to allow for this kind of servicing in other parts, if not all the village. And that is, from an environmental perspective, very positive. And it's this corporation that Kelly's talking about and what's on your agenda today that will allow this type of development in a village to be managed by a utility, and the risk will not be on the township. The risk will be handled by the utility. The management of the system will be handled by the utility, and the utility bills will be issued by them as well. So it's a very positive step forward for community building. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, we'll open it up for any questions. Who wants to start? This is totally new ground for us. I see Cindy has joined us. Victor, you go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In the business proposal, in most cases, we were sort of talking about municipal properties or developments like a condominiums, things like that. I'm wondering about whether or not, I know that water is a real issue inside the village of Charlotte Lake. I wonder if this would also permit, say, a number of private house owners whose septics are old and beginning to fail, if they could join together to create their own sort of private communal system, but underneath the municipal body.
Joe, do you want to take that one?
Yes.
In other words, can they hook into the system?
Certainly, Councillor. That's a really good point. And I think it's a big part of the community revitalization component of this proposal. And there's a couple of communities just in Eastern Ontario that have been completely shut down from development because of the situation you just identified, and one just to the east of you, Lanark Village. So there's a number of different ways that this could happen. And we talk about, brand new development, for example, a 10-unit seniors housing development. Currently, you would need communal services to make that happen. Providing services to a downtown core in a community such as Verona, for example, or Charlotte Lake, or proposals from the community to connect to a communal system. And this is probably the easiest way to make that happen, is to have a corporation that will share that risk amongst all the users throughout the county.
If I can add to that, Mayor, through you, Mayor, if I can just add to that, a good local example is the village of Marysville on Wolf Island. So we're just finishing doing a secondary plan for the village because they're about to get a brand new ferry, and it will land in the village permanently as of December of next year. And that is going to really push development on Wolf Island. And based on the provincial policy statement, they have to direct that growth to the village. So the secondary plan is recommending that all new development that within the expanded village boundary will be on communal services. And realistically, for that to happen, this municipal service corporation is going to have to be in place. But the engineers who looked at the analysis and the costs also said, here's option 2 is that the municipality can hook in all the existing houses and the Main Street commercial into the system. And that can either be by a separate system just dealing with that part of the existing village, which again, communal servicing is great because you don't have to build big pipes. It's almost like a Lego block system. You can add based on the density. So they can do a separate system, or they can talk to the developers of the new part of the village and say, can you oversize the water and sewer systems you're going to build and be able to put those lines through the village for the rest? Now, the municipality will pay for that, but there'll be possibly some cost efficiency. So it can really help these existing systems. And like Charlotte Lake, Marysville has very small lots, old wells and cisterns and old septic systems, so that there's definitely environmental benefits there.
Thank you.
Bill?
Yes, to you,
Go
Madam
ahead,
Mayor. Thank you. Joe, through the mayor, given the site that we're looking at the present time, what would be the limit of the size of a communal service that might be located on that piece of property that we're considering for the seniors' residence? Would that in actual fact be able to handle more than what we're proposing on that, or would a separate location have to be chosen for anything further?
Through you, Mayor. So that's exactly what this feasibility study is going to do. And it's been more than a year since we talked about this at council, but you may recall that as part of the proposal, we're asking the consultants not only to look at servicing the school site, former school site, but also taking a look at what it would take to service at least the Soldiers Memorial Hall site, because it's a community facility. By the end of the study, which should be done in March, you will have answers to those questions. What's the density potential for the school site? And they'll actually going to mock up some building designs for you to look at, see how it's going to fit into the village. They'll answer the question of what if we include the school site, or excuse me, the Soldiers Memorial Hall site. And they'll also answer the question of what if the community and the council wants to make a decision of pushing the services further out to the village, to some of the churches or community facilities, but maybe even the other parts of the village. So you'll have a good handle on that when this work's done.
Thank you.
Okay. Brent?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Joe, I'm just wondering, with regard to the pilot project that we're anticipating getting some information in March, I know that it's early days, so I'm just asking if part of that report is going to give us some sense of, in theory, if a person living in the village wanted to tie into a communal system, what the cost could potentially be for them. And I guess what I'm saying is, are we going to have potentially a situation like Sydenham when the water was brought in? There was a lot of controversy. I still think it's good to have a communal system. I think that it helps on any number of factors, but I'm just wondering if we will have a costing with regard to if an individual household wants to tie in, what type of cost is going to be floated by a municipal services corporation and possibly deferred over a longer period, and or what's going to be the upfront cost for a property owner.
Through you, Mayor. Thank you for the question, Councillor Cameron. And I'm going to ask Kelly to comment as well, because I think the service corporation utility can help defer the costs of somebody wanting to do that. Kelly will have a clearer answer. But certainly with the scenarios I've already talked about, the engineers and planners will be able to give council a pretty accurate cost of what a hookup would be. We've got those costs for the Marysville project, so I can see it's happening for Charbot Lake, and I think it's a fair question, because you're going to be able to make decisions on how you want the village to grow beyond the Charbot Lake site, and communal services could certainly allow that to happen. But maybe I'll ask Kelly to comment as well on the ability of the service corporation to handle the financial risk.
Thank you, Joe. Through you, Madam Mayor. I think that's a really good example, Councillor. One of the large advantages of communal services is it's a fairly small footprint, unlike a big water treatment plant. So for example, in Sydenham, they built it and then they oversized it, and then you need that demand to make it work. Whereas with communal systems, it's very much, you can add increments and it can be decentralized. And because it's generally a small bore kind of system, the installation component is far less expensive than a major water treatment or sewage treatment facility. So those numbers become far more reasonable once you take that into account. And we should have a pretty good idea from the consultant's report how many units will be able to be serviced from that site, and roughly how much it would cost to join into the system. The role of the service corporation is to help spread that risk. So the example that gets used regularly at the governance committee is if we all needed insurance, nobody be able to drive, but because we share and pool that risk, we can all afford to drive and pay $100 a month for our insurance. So that's essentially what this will do, is allow us the opportunity to spread that risk and to spread the costs across an entire system. And the flexibility of a communal design allows us to do that far more efficiently than the traditional water and sewer treatment facilities.
Good. Okay, any other questions or Tom?
A question with regards to funding this. Let's just say that Central Frontenac decided to fund this municipal service corporation. And with a small tax base, where would we derive the funds from? Would we have to apply for grants, or how would we go about getting this corporation funded so that we could actually start a development, like a small development within Central Frontenac?
So Kelly, typically, how are these funded? Through levy or through borrowed money on a payback situation?
Well, let's take the site on the school property, for example. After the study is done, the township could apply the zoning to it and stipulate the kind and shape of the development, and the developer pays for it. And when it reaches capacity, or when it reaches the number of units necessary, then the ownership of that gets transferred to the Municipal Service Corporation. So that's probably going to be the most typical type of solution in Frontenac. Something like the Marysville project is likely going to be a combination of that. So new lots being added and perhaps being funded in part by the developer and in part by the local tax base. But your costs to do that would be recouped through utility fees. No different than if you're in the city of Kingston or the city of Belleville or city of Ottawa, your fees pay for the development. And under the Act, under the Clean Water Act, the Municipal Service Corporation will be required to do rate studies to demonstrate that there isn't a dependency on tax dollars, that the rates will cover that. And as part of the work done by WSP, they've calculated that the rates would be somewhere between $100 and $120 per month, which is very similar to what I pay here in the city of Kingston. And if you amortize the cost of a well and septic over the lifespan of 25 years, the costs are relatively the same and far more environmentally safe.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. I have a motion. And the motion is moved by Brent and seconded by Bill. Whereas council has received the information, the report entitled Frontenac Municipal Services Corporation Business Case Study, final draft dated September 15th, 2021. And whereas Kelly Pender and Joe Gallivan are present to answer any questions that council may have on the business case study. And whereas the business case study will be posted on the Frontenac Public Engagement site for a period of 30 days to allow the public to provide written comments, and a virtual public meeting will be held. Now, therefore, be it resolved that council has no further comments on the report prior to the public consultation. And further, that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the County of Frontenac. So in other words, we'll go to the next step, is hearing from the public. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
This
Mayor.
is
Thank you,
very
Council.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Very
Thank you.
exciting.
We'll keep you posted. Take care now.
Thank you. Okay, good night.
Night.
Now we have Rhonda and Sandy with us about pickleball. So from communal systems to fun. Do you want to just unmute yourselves, whoever is going to be speaking? Put your video on so we can see you.
Oh, Rhonda, turn yours off. I can see Bob in the back.
I was about to introduce Bob to anyone who hadn't met him, but I think probably most of you have. So
Unfortunately, Bill has.
he's my
yes.
partner in pickleball and life.
Okay, who wants to start?
Sandy, why don't you lead off?
Okay.
I was going to make her do it, but okay. Is there a, does everybody see I'm not sure how this works, for the PowerPoint presentation.
Sandra, I can either share it on my screen or you can put it up on your screen, whatever is easiest.
If you could put it up, Cindy, that would be great.
Just give me a second and I will do that.
I'm very technically challenged. I have no idea.
Very good.
Cindy's practiced at it.
And while she is, thank you, Madam Mayor and Council, for giving us some time to tell you about this today. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
I want to say I've driven by. It looks great to see all those folks out there in cars and busy. And I do have my pickleball equipment. It's just to get there and get somebody to teach me how to do it. It's on the list. Here we go.
Oh,
Okay. Everybody can see that okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
so I'll talk about this first slide here. So yeah, we started off by approaching a bunch of people, asking them to find out if there was interest in pickleball in the community. I'm not sure how I got the idea, but because pickleball has become such a popular sport, I guess. But anyways, Rhonda and a few others said, "Hey, we've got this tennis court," and I said, "Well, geez, I don't know. Well, can we use it?" But we discovered that, yeah, we probably could. So we began the work, and we removed, as you see, brushes, debris, dirt, vines, cracked asphalt. We took away, 12 truck and trailer loads of debris, just compostable debris, and moved it away and cleaned it up. And then we were able to put one tennis court, 4 pickleball courts, and basketball nets on this newly sealed painted surface. But of course, there was a process with that. In doing that, it took more than just a couple people. So there was many more people that became involved. So next slide, maybe. Rhonda?
Yeah, that's great. So as Sandy said, it took a little time to get the court ready to be played on. And even through the summer, there have been volunteers from the email blast list we have of people who are interested in pickleball or tennis or any sports on the court. And people have pitched in to keep the area clean and do the whippersnipping and the mowing and the trimming to keep it, usable. It is being used a lot. If anyone is in the village, I'm sure they hear it and see it. We for sure at least 100 people have been using the court to play pickleball. There have also been people using it for a bit of basketball and some tennis, and tennis is starting to pick up a little bit more now on a regular basis. Kids go in there and play. You see them learning to ride their bikes or riding around in scooters in there. So it is certainly getting used. And clearly it's being used pretty much daily, and most days used a couple of times a day. It's very commonly used in the mornings and the late afternoon. And of course, now that the days are getting shorter, that's changing. But even in the cold weather in the last few weeks, on some of those chilly days, we still had 3 courts being played simultaneously. So it has been very popular. And I think what's really struck us is how much it's really become a community hub. People are meeting other people, making friendships, making connections, helping each other out with things long beyond pickleball and sports. It's been really wonderful to see the enthusiasm and people pitching in, because it took volunteers to do the physical work, but people also put forward money to contribute at the outset. And maybe if you can go to the next slide, I'll pass it back to Sandy.
Yeah, Rhonda talked about people meeting other people, and I had a friend here who's a cottager obviously in the summertime, and she said she's met more people at pickleball, and she's been here for 15 years. So she's really, she couldn't believe it. She's made more connections through this recreation than anything else she's ever been involved in. So how has it been managed? Well, the Township and Recreation Committee have been supporting the development of the court, and we've had some pickleball paddles, which they had in store. They had acquired, I think, from some grant or other, and some balls, what they shared. And Township provided a storage box and a picnic table for the grassy area behind the court. Storage box was for all our equipment that we had to acquire, nets, balls, paddles, etc. So funds were raised that were directed to the rec committee so that people could get receipts and whatnot. And lots of people, I'll tell you, there was so much enthusiasm. There's a lot of contributions made. And the players and neighbors loved it too in the area. And then there was a lot of business people that contributed, and it made everything come together and made it happen. It was really a very huge community effort that really was successful. There's so many people that were so enthusiastic that really, it was great. It was great to see, really great to see. Maybe we'll go on to the next slide.
Yeah, Sandy really nailed it. I mean, it has been a very cooperative effort, even getting down to how we play and how we manage things. You know, we have lock boxes on the equipment. People come out and play once. We show them how to set it up and take it down. So they're self-serve after that. And we've been very fortunate. Everyone has been incredibly respectful and cooperative. And they pitched in to help when needed. And everybody's taken excellent care and been good guardians of the equipment that we've pulled together. You know, I think some of you will know that Frank did all of our outsourcing. Frank Gerard, he investigated all the equipment, got us good prices. And we've been very careful with the money that's been donated to have to make sure we're getting things that are going to be just what we need and things that are, you know, good quality and they're going to work for us. So we've done all of that just very cooperatively and very informally. And it's been advertised through the list that Sandy has built up over time and word of mouth, and it's been covered in the news a few times, and we posted it on What's Happening Central Frontenac. So by word of mouth, it's growing in the community. It is the fastest growing sport around, and I think what's happening here is very indicative of that. You know, it's taken off like gangbusters. We had a tournament that we actually had to limit the number of players who could play because it was getting too big, and we knew we weren't going to have time to finish the games. So the interest is certainly there. And the equipment is also there, not just for pickleball, but for tennis. We had to buy 2 new tennis posts and a net. We fixed up the basketball nets. So there are other things there that people can play as well. And if you just go ahead one slide, there's a little bit more on this topic. It really does lend itself to all ages and all levels. I'll flip it back to Sandy, but you know, even though there are a lot of retired people like ourselves there are kids and people quite a bit older than us as well. And surprisingly, we have trouble keeping up to them because some of them have played other places before, and their age belies great talent at pickleball and a lot more speed than you might think. So it's really been good for all ages and skill levels. Sandy, maybe you want to finish off this?
Yeah, it really has been super good. You know, grandparents bringing their grandkids. I brought my grandkids out when they visited. It's just it's a sport that just appeals to such a wide range of skills and age. It's just so good for a community like this, that's for sure. And it brings, you know, it brings people together. Let's see, children have used to play the court. Yeah, basketball, they ride their bikes in there, they ride their scooters, etc. The court, yeah, there's some talk of the court that could maybe be used for ball hockey or other sports, you know, in the wintertime. Maybe you know, get more use out of it. Yeah, players, community members, and neighbors have all been incredibly supportive, really supportive. The emails I get on a regular basis, you know, to do with pickleball is incredible. And as the summer went on, I get more and more people saying, "What's this? Oh, you got a pickleball court? Oh, great. You know, I play here in this wintertime, you know," and they're just so keen to come out, and it's a real draw. It's a real draw to the community. Huge, I would say. So, next slide.
So given, you know, our sort of pitch that this has been, it sort of exceeded our expectations for how successful it's been and how much interest there's been. It really, I think, shows there is a demand for a recreation space and some activities that are available that really suit a wide range of ages and skills. This one in particular is a very social sport as well. So it really does help build, not just the physical health, but I think the emotional health and the connections of the people who come out and enjoy whatever it is at the court. Sometimes people just walk by and have a visit. There are lots of folks in the village who stop by and just visit with folks. They're not playing themselves, but they say, we really enjoy seeing people there and seeing it getting used.
We would actually have neighbors that came out and would have a wine in the evening and just watch the people playing over there and stuff. They just enjoyed it from a social aspect.
And lots of neighbors who aren't players themselves did contribute money because they were excited to see the site getting cleaned up and excited to see people enjoying it. Now we know the site is being considered for development, and we just heard a proposal or conversation about what might be feasible there or not. We know that seniors housing is a strong possibility for something to go into the site of the former school. We just think that maintaining the court as part of that, as a complement to it, would be wonderful. It would be wonderful for the people moving into housing there. It does draw people into the village. There have been times when people have said, oh, I came in and we went and got our sandwich from the cafe and we sat at the picnic table and then we played a little more. People are coming into town and visiting local businesses. The area behind the court is sort of underused, but it's a nice big open flat space that with just a little bit of investment could be a nice space for horseshoe pits or bocce ball or gazebo and park area that people who might move into seniors housing on that site could enjoy on a regular basis. It's because the court is already there. It would be so much less expensive to keep it and maintain or improve it than to try and find an alternative site when there's a lot of scarcity for a place for that to happen that would have the parking and the other things that would meet the needs of a recreation area. So if we have a sense, and I think council doesn't know for sure yet what the long-term plans are, but if we think there's a possibility that this area can be retained as a recreation site, there are grants and things available that the folks on the pickleball group and the rec committee could pursue to improve the surface. It's not a perfect surface. It's way better than no surface at all, but there are some things that could be done to make it better. But we wouldn't want to do a whole bunch of fundraising if to improve the surface and make a bigger improvement or ask for grant money if there isn't a sense that we can continue to use it for at least some period of time. So I think that's what we're looking for is it reasonable to assume that we can continue to use this in the way we are now and to pursue some grants and other things that might help us make it even better. And Sandy, is there anything I missed?
The ongoing maintenance of this would be fairly low as well, because moving forward, like if we know that it's going to be there, we can, like I said, like Rhonda was saying, there are people keeners that would help us to search for and get some grants to improve it, but also maintaining it with a lot of people using the court. It's for many other areas and pickleball clubs or what organizations, there's fees every year that are charged and people are happy to pay. So that would also help with the maintenance and upkeep of such an area. So it's a win-win, health, mental and physical, and I think pretty low maintenance costs. And I don't know, Rhonda, do you have anything else to say?
No, I think it's just if members of council have any questions for us.
Okay, so let's take that down and open it up for questions or comments. Bill, you're first.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, to Rhonda and Bob. Of course, I'll have to include that, and to Sandra. I just want, first of all, I want to congratulate the effort that went into this and all of the volunteers that moved forward with this. I know that pickleball was an area that Councillor Hayes was very interested in a little while ago, a couple of years ago. And I'm certainly in favor of it, but given the position or the situation, and we're looking at that site for seniors housing, which is top on our agenda. But I would like to think that we would certainly take into consideration your request at the time that we're looking for the site to see whether or not we could accommodate something in that form. So that would be my my position in supporting that. And I just wanted to say thank you to the organizers and the volunteers. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Okay, Sherry, go ahead.
I just wanted to as well thank Sandy and Bob and Rhonda very much, and all of the volunteers. It's so great to see some new life breathed into the court, and I know that it took a lot of work to get it there, and I just want to thank all of you. It's so nice to see.
Good. Anyone else? I'd like to certainly add to those comments. It's fantastic to see everyone using it, and great activity. I think with your ask, it would be our position to keep it there as long as we can, hopefully work it into a seniors complex, because there's your new players right there who'll be living beside it. I think it would be an attractive addition. The one concern I would have is it is the one flat spot on that property, but we can make flat spots, we know. And it will be a matter of time to bring in the consultants and the people that take a look at where this communal system could go and how we could place development on the lot and keep the pickleball there. I think we can very much assure you that that would be our first desire, is to keep what we've got and improve it, and try to work around that to work it into a project. Why rip it up and build it someplace else? But I do think that if we did have to do away with it, given the popularity of it, we would want to put one someplace else. I don't know what the dollars would be that we're talking about, but certainly the demand is there, and if we build it, they will come. So I would like to assure you, and I think council would agree with me, that we will try to work it into whatever plans are going forward. I would think probably 1 to 2 years before we have a better definite as to what things are going to look like there. It's too bad Kelly and Joe are gone, because they might be able to help us better in the timing, but I would think at least 2 years down the road before we would have a solid plan for what can go where on that lot. Anyone else have a better thought on that? That's just a guess from me.
Yeah, and Madam Mayor, you'll see in the resolution that has been prepared for you and for council. The other thing is that we will be there. I will be as well with Joe, and so will Cindy, some staff on Friday on site with the consultants. So it'll be there. So we'll be discussing some of that issues at the same time.
Good. So Kathy can bring forward what we said tonight, that we're going to try to build around it and not build over it. Victor?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to the presentation, the presenters. So Sandy, Rhonda, Bob, thank you for this presentation. I think you are getting a sense that council appreciates how much you guys and the whole pickleball community have done. And we want to preserve pickleball. And the Madam Mayor gave you sort of a timeline. So, and I think perhaps at this point, the best approach would be to just give the township a little bit of time. Don't go out and spend a whole bunch of money yet. Just give us a little bit of time to get our plans in place. And then once everything becomes a little more clear, at that point, then the perhaps future improvement or development and fundraising could go ahead without the sense that your work would be in vain because it all gets ripped up to put in a communal system, which would also be a great thing. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Right. Okay. Anyone else? Kathy, do you have the new motion that you'd like to read?
Yes, I will.
Okay, I have it moved by Victor and seconded by Philip.
Okay.
And if you'll read the motion.
Okay. The council received the presentation from Rhonda Kimberly Young and Sandy Robertson. And further, that council recognized the work of many volunteers who have refurbished the former tennis court on the site of the former Charlotte Lake Public School for pickleball. And further, that the pickleball group is fully aware that the site is being considered for development for seniors housing. And further believes such a court would be a perfect complement to the development and is requesting council to consider retaining the area for pickleball. Now, therefore, be it resolved that council approve the request from the pickleball group to continue to use the court over the next couple of years or until council has more details as to when the seniors housing project may begin.
Okay. Any further questions or comments on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. So 2 years may run into forever, who knows?
Thank you for
Thank you
your
very
time.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you for all that you've done.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
That's what makes our community go around. All right. Now, any deferred items, Kathy?
None.
Okay. We have staff reports. And our first one is moved by Cindy and seconded by Tom, that council approved the check distribution reports totaling $1,299,378.38 as prepared by the treasurer. And Michael is there to answer any questions. Okay, all those in favor of the motion? Carried. Finance and Treasury. Moved by Philip and seconded by Victor that council approve the following apportionments of assessment as recommended by impact for 2021 as applicable for the following roll numbers. And there are a whole number of them there. Any question or comment on any of those? Hearing none, all those in favor? Carried. Moved by Sherry and seconded by Cindy, that council for the Township of Central Frontenac approve the following reduction of assessment pursuant to the Municipal Act. Roll number 1039-010-010-10-147-000 McCuller, Charles and Burrell for the period of April 10th to December 31st, 2021, as reported by impact. Reason raised by fire, demolition, or otherwise, 357 1DI. And further, that council approve an adjustment of taxes to be calculated by the tax department for the related period. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Next is the variance report, moved by Tom and seconded by Brent, that council accept the revenue and expenditure budget to actual variances for the period ending December 30th, 2021 for information. Michael, would you like to point out anything that's of interest on this report for us or bring to our attention?
Just one, Madam Mayor, if you don't mind. Councillor Dewey brought to my attention a question about the overage for the arena. And just to remind council that we did advance them funds that will come back to us. Hopefully before the end of the year. I inquired with the South Frontenac treasurer when I was preparing this report and thought I had made a comment on the report that was given to council, but I apologize, I did not. So yeah, I just want to bring that to the council's attention. Otherwise, I think we're in a good position.
Okay, does anyone else have a question or comment on any of the numbers? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion? Carried.
Thank you, council. Have a good night.
You too, Michael.
Michael, don't leave yet because we're going to be doing the one for the youth program.
All right, yes, that's over here.
Okay. Kathy, do you have a motion for the youth program?
I do. Okay, and who do you have it moved, Madam Mayor?
I don't have it, so you can pick.
Okay, so I see Philip and Victor, Youth Program Supervisor, as to whether or not the youth program would pay for the rental of the community halls. And further, that staff recommend that they pay their service club fee of $30 plus HST until March the 31st of 2022. Now therefore be it resolved that council accept the recommendation of staff and charge the service club fee for rental of the halls by the youth program. I can also explain a little further with that, and that's why Michael, I asked him to stay on. As council are certainly aware, we subsidize money, we provide money, and Michael can tell us the exact amount to the youth program every year. So what they were looking at is, because they are not able to go into the schools as of yet, that they would be using our community halls, and they just wanted to know whether or not they would have to pay rent. So I think staff, Michael and I had spoke about it and made a suggestion for council. So it's your decision from here.
How often do they use the halls? Like, is it 5 days a week or?
They use different halls. She did not actually say in her request, so I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, Victor?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just in my experience with this youth program, it was one after school a week for each of the schools. So that would be Land O'Lakes and Grec. So it would just be twice a week. And it could be different halls. So likely it would be the Olden Hall and Oso Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that, Michael, go ahead.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to council, it is $15,500 that we contribute to the program each year.
Okay. So the amount of time they're in the hall, does that matter? Like, is it an hours program or 3 hours? Victor, you've got the experience?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Typically, I would say it runs about 2 hours. That's the planning of the program. The kids' parents sometimes come pick them up earlier. And there was another thing I was going to comment. Oh, my question, is the request to use the halls, or is the request to use the halls for free?
Well, I think what the request was in the email is just asking whether or not, they haven't said if they're going to, I think, use the halls, but they do need to find a spot because it is getting cooler and a place to hold it. But that's not the rest. The request was just whether or not they would have to pay rent.
Philip, go ahead. You're on mute, Philip.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to find the unmute. Just, do we know if they pay the school for the use of the schools? I mean, I understand the concept that, you know, if we charge them, we're basically taking the money that we gave them, but just curious if they do pay the schools.
And that I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Could we do this? Could we split the motion that we would allow them to use the hall and that we will decide on a dollar value after we speak to them, one, to see what their budget is like, and secondly, how much time and how many days of use, and whether or not they have a spot in their budget for rent. So there's like, allow them to use the hall right now and work out the details of the dollar value soon thereafter. Would that work? Nobody's saying no. Victor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I think that it might be well served for us to split these two things, because right now I believe no one is allowed to use the halls. So one motion would be to give special permission, and then we can sort of defer the motion about cost to a later date, and also taking in consideration that the halls will have to be cleaned afterwards, and there's a cost on the township that we wouldn't have had to bear other than allowing this special permission.
I think halls are open now, Kathy, are they not?
Yes, and that they can for certain, yes, and that's what, as of October 25th, in the ruling that came down from the province.
Tom, go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. I just wondered, maybe if Victor could answer this question. How popular is these youth groups at the various halls? Like how many students would be using this program every week?
Through you, Madam Mayor, in my experience, the group in Land O'Lakes would have been anywhere, and it's each week it's a different number, but it's usually between 5 and 10. And at Granite Ridge, it was usually between 5 and 7.
Okay, thank you.
But again, the program hasn't run for a while, so it may be of great interest to kids to get back doing something. Okay, so the motion as it stands, Kathy, could you maybe just reread that again?
Okay. That staff have received a request from the Rural Frontenac Community Services Youth Program Supervisor as to whether or not the youth program would pay for the rental of the community halls. And further, that staff recommend that they pay the service club fee of $30 plus HST until March the 31st, 2022. Now, therefore, be it resolved that council accept the recommendation of staff and charge the fee, the service club fee for the rental of the halls by the youth program. Now, I can, like you mentioned about splitting it up, I can split it up just to have basically that we'll, that they have received, staff have received their request and that council allow them to use the halls. And then we'll find out the details further in regards to usage, and that we could tell them at that point whether or not there's a fee.
We could also revisit the motion if in fact this doesn't work. Victor?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, instead of splitting it, could we have just one motion saying, yes, we will permit it, and that the fee will be negotiated?
Yeah, we can do that.
And then it's just one motion, and then it would be up to staff to determine if and or how much the fee would be.
Okay, so Kathy is going to amend.
I'll amend it, yeah.
If the mover and the seconder is okay with that, to have her negotiate that rental agreement.
I believe I was the mover.
No,
okay.
No,
Philip was the mover, and Victor, you're the seconder.
Okay, as the seconder, I approve that amendment.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so all those in favor? Motion's carried. All right, now we're back to the regular agenda. Good night, Michael. All right, we don't have Jamie with us tonight, but we have some motions and the reports are in our package. Moved by Victor and seconded by Bill, that council receive the CFFR activity report prepared by the acting manager of emergency services / fire chief dated October the 26th, 2021 for information. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Okay. Moved by Nikki and seconded by Philip, that council received the CFFR water tanker shuttle accreditation report prepared by the acting manager of emergency services / fire chief dated October the 26th, 2021 for information. And congratulations to those firefighters. They did amazingly well on this. We're very proud of them.
Yep.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. All right. We are now dealing with alternative voting methods. Moved by Cindy and seconded by Victor. Whereas the Municipal Elections Act 1996 allows municipalities to authorize the use of voting and vote counting equipment and to choose an alternative voting method to traditional in-person voting. And whereas Central Frontenac has used alternative voting methods for the last 3 municipal elections, and whereas the other lower tier Frontenac municipalities are also intending to use alternative voting methods and wish to put out a joint request for proposal to source one provider for the 4 municipalities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that council pass a bylaw later in the meeting to authorize the use of vote counting equipment and to proceed with electronic internet/telephone voting for the 2022 election. And further, that staff be authorized to participate in the joint request for proposal process for a service provider for election services, which RFP will be coordinated through South Frontenac. Any discussion? So pretty much this is the same. We've always done our voting. Bill, do you have a question?
I guess I have a comment in regard to, and you just took the words from me, is that this is actual fact been the way we've been doing voting in the last few elections. But I'm just wondering, I'm not so sure of the information in regard to our other partners within the county. Can someone bring me up to date as to whether they were all using alternative voting methods?
Yes, they were.
Okay, I'm in support of it.
Okay, no other comments? All those in favor? Carried. Okay. All right, moved by Tom and seconded by Bill. Whereas bylaw 209-314 being a bylaw to establish a procedure, am I on the right one? Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, sorry, being a bylaw. Let me start over. Whereas bylaw 2009-314 being a bylaw to establish a procedure for the Committee of Adjustment provides that meetings are at the call of the Secretary Treasurer or Chair of the Committee of Adjustment. And whereas Committee of Adjustment typically meets the second Thursday of every month. And whereas the Secretary Treasurer and current Chair of the committee are recommending we do not hold a meeting in January of 2022. Now, therefore, be it resolved that council receive this report for information and authorize staff to provide notice to the public that there will be no meeting in January 2022. Any discussion? Makes sense. There's no septic approvals that are going to happen over with the snow, unless we don't get any snow. All in favor? Carried. Okay, draft vaccination policy. We are pulling this one, Kathy?
Yes, we are. There's more work for staff after we've had the session today and with our lawyers from the Cunningham Swan. They did a presentation, an hour, the breakfast seminar, and vaccination policies was one of them. And then I also took part in the one at noon with SHRP as well. So there's a few more things that need to be ironed out, and then we'll bring it back to council in November.
So this motion is still good to the first meeting in November or the second meeting?
You could put it in and just leave it in. It is okay to go the way it is, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so leave it as the first meeting in November?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, moved by Sherry and seconded by Brent. Whereas the Kingston, Frontenac, Livingston, Addington Public Health Unit calls upon local organizations to implement a vaccination policy that encourages all staff be fully vaccinated against COVID-19 with proof of vaccination or related medical exemption. And whereas staff require more time to prepare a policy, now therefore be it resolved that staff will bring forth a vaccination policy for council's review to the first meeting in November. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried.
Excuse me.
All right. Committee reports, none.
None.
Communications. Moved by Philip and seconded by Cindy, that council received for information the following correspondence, and it's 1 to 7 in your package. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, we now have public meetings. Cindy, is this where I need to read the declaration?
No, this is to deal with road allowances.
These are road allowance closing, so there's nothing formal that we need. It's not an application under the Planning Act. We do have
Okay.
several members of the public listening in, so they may wish to speak, but if we can just go through the reports and ask for each one, I think that's sufficient.
Okay, all right, we'll start by putting the motion on the table. And this is moved by Brent and seconded by Nikki, that council receive input from the public meeting and the accompanying report prepared by the deputy clerk. And further, that subject to comments received at the public meeting, council approve the recommendation to stop up, close, and convey to the owners of the adjoining lands in Lot 19 Concession 9 and Lot 19 Concession 8, that portion of the road allowance which bisects the property subject to easements that may be identified by Hydro One Networks, Inc. And further, that said conveyance is conditional upon the applicant merging title to the road allowance with the adjoining properties to form one contiguous parcel. And that staff proceed to obtain an opinion of value for the lands to determine purchase price and bring a bylaw back to council once the survey is completed. Okay, we'll open it up for any public comments, and then council can comment.
So
Is there anyone who wishes?
I would ask that if there is anyone from the public that wishes to comment, if you can use the raise hand feature down at the bottom of your screen, and then I can move you over and enable you to speak. If there is anyone interested, I'll just give you a minute. Madam Mayor, I don't see anyone interested in speaking.
Okay. Anyone on council have any comment? Okay. Seeing no comments and no hands up, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried. Okay. And our next one is also a closure, moved by Bill and seconded by Sherry, that council receive input from the public meeting and the accompanying report prepared by the deputy clerk. And further, that subject to comments received at the public meeting, council approved the recommendation to stop up, close, and convey to the owners of 1270 Warrington Lane, Ian and Linda Lake, that portion of the untraveled highway identified on the map included in the public notice, subject to easements that may be identified for Hydro One Networks, Inc. And further, that said convenience is conditional upon the applicant merging title to the road allowance with the adjoining property owned by the applicants to form one contiguous parcel. And that staff proceed to obtain a value to determine purchase price for the lands pursuant to our policy and bring a bylaw back to council once the survey is completed to authorize the closure and sale. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak to this?
Please use the raise hand feature at the bottom of the screen if anyone wishes to comment. And if there's anyone joining by phone, it's *9 to enable the raise hand feature. Oh, just a moment, please. There is somebody here. It's a phone number, so I'm not sure who it may be, but I'll move them over. If you can unmute. Try the *6 or *9 again. I've moved over the phone number 416-725-4215. If you can use *6 to unmute.
You're
Hello?
unmuted. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Go ahead. Yes.
Sorry. Can I go back one motion? I didn't know how to put up my hand through the audio part of the meeting. Can I just clarify on the previous point that the splitting of the property, are they also merging the city's easement with that in the previous motion?
So are you talking about the road closure for Emery in Hinchinbrook?
No, for the Warrington Road. They're splitting one of the parcels for road access.
So the original intent of the severance was to create 3 new lots, I believe, from the retained parcel from the subdivision. So this closure impacts the third severance application in order to provide it with frontage onto the traveled portion of the road. Does that answer your question?
No, I'm aware that that's what's happening. It's just when I was hearing, they said something like it was going to merge with the easement. So is the easement still going to be in place, or
the road allowance piece? Sorry, the road allowance piece that we're proposing to close will be carved off from the municipally owned road allowance, and it'll be transferred to the applicants, the lakes. And we would be asking that road parcel merge with their existing holdings. There's no easement involved in that. It would just merge with their land holdings so that it all forms one parcel, and then we can process the severances from there.
okay, yeah, because I just saw to the north of it. There's a strip of easement, so I just didn't know if they were incorporating
So
that.
I think what you might be referring to is the unopened road allowance, which does run at the north end of the property. It's not an easement per se, It's just an unopened road allowance.
Okay, so it has nothing to do with that unopened road allowance.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, fair enough. That's all. Thank you.
Can we have your name before you leave us?
Certainly. It's Randall Rushton.
Okay, Cindy, you can note that. Thank you.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
Now, is there anyone else who wishes to comment? We can move you over if you want to raise your hand. Anyone who's interested. I see no one else raising their hand, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Any member of council have any comment or question on this motion? Okay. Hearing none and seeing no hands up, I will call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Okay. All right, we have a bylaw. Moved by Victor and seconded by Tom, that bylaw 2021-57, being a bylaw to authorize an alternative voting method for the 2022 election, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 26th day of October 2021. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, is there any notice of motions?
None.
Any giving of notice of motion?
No.
Okay, new business, the snowmobile club's request.
Yes. Do you have the resolution there, Madam Mayor, or do you want me to read it?
I don't. Can you read it?
Okay. We'll move by Nikki. And second by Tom. That the Snowmobile Club of Snow Road has requested permission from the municipality to apply for funds to carry out improvements to the Tehavlock Recreation Trail. And further, that council authorized the mayor and chair of the trail committee, which I wonder if we should have Nikki maybe not move this motion, because she is the, yes, she's the chair. So I'll put
Yes.
Brent on the motion instead. So and further that the council authorized the mayor and chair of the trail committee to sign letters, grant applications, and to give permission to various contractors to work on the trails on behalf of the township. That's the
Maybe
motion.
I could just speak to that for a minute because there's no background report. What's happening is at the last meeting, which was Monday, the Snowmobile Club wants to apply for a grant to do some work, and they need permission from the owner of the land to do that. So they've asked that Nikki and I send a letter on township letterhead, and I said that I felt that needed to come through council and that Kathy would sign the letter, or you would give us authorization to do that. Also understanding that we work through EOTA so that Cindy's aware of what's being done, that people have insurance and WSIB on any of the projects we do. I also need to let you know that the committee wanted to raise $19,000. And at this point, we have $14,000 towards that goal. And so another 5,000 will be at what we said we were going to raise this year. So we've been in talks with Cindy about the process of how we flow this money and get things done. We're looking at putting a grader on the trail from Charlotte Lake to the Lanark boundary, and some gravel into an area that really needs to be built up before the snow flies. So we need to be able to act nimbly and get things done. So that's the reason for this authorization. So any questions or comments? Tom?
Thank you, Worship. Well, I guess I just heard what you said. This is news to me, but I guess you have discussed this with Cindy, because see, we're already doing some work on this portion of the trail through Gare Galloway, and I'm, I don't know whether we're overlapping some of the stuff that we're trying to do or what's going on there, because and all the funds, according to our agreement, has to flow through EOTA.
It will flow through EOTA, but if a person wants to give a donation, it has to flow through the township in order to get a tax receipt, right? And then we'll flow it from the township to EOTA. So that's the process, I think, at this point is how it's going to work. Because I'm not going to give you $2,000 if I can't get a charitable receipt.
Oh no question. That's okay. That's reasonable.
Yeah. Nikki, go ahead.
Just to reassure Councillor Dewey, we have been, Wayne has been working very closely with Cindy, and Cindy said that she's grateful for any help that we can help her out on certain areas of the trail. So there won't, as far as we're concerned, there won't be any overlap at all, because we make Cindy aware before we do anything ahead to give her the courtesy of the heads up.
And did all this work go through an RFQ process? So you've got quotes and stuff like that?
We have got people who have gotten quotes and people who are donating some work as well.
Okay.
No, we don't do formal RFPs. We go out and ask 5 contractors, what's your price to do this job? And we pick one. So it works well. Okay, so if there aren't any other questions or, oh, Philip, go ahead.
So I think this is great. I'm glad to hear that, everybody's working really hard to move this forward. The motion, I may need to hear it again, because it sounds like it's kind of open-ended. It doesn't really say what where the work will end.
Okay, let's read it again.
Okay, that the Snowmobile Club of Snow Road has requested permission from the municipality to apply for funds to carry out improvements to the Tay Havelock Recreation Trail. But it doesn't say from where to where, because we're the owners. And further, the council authorized the mayor and chair of the trail committee to sign letters, grant applications, and to give permission to various contractors to work on the trails on behalf of the township. That's basically what the letter, I think, says what that came in.
So control still stays with the mayor and the chair of the committee.
Yeah, authorize them to sign on behalf of the municipality on grant applications, yes, and the letter to the contractors, yes.
And if we think it's something that is out of the ordinary, it will come back to council so that we don't get our fingers slapped. Tom, Victor and then Tom?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I thought I had heard that the area of improvement was going to be from Charlotte Lake to the Lanark County border.
Yeah.
Madam
That
Mayor,
is the section that we're working on first, not the snowmobile club though.
No, I just I see the letter, sorry, the letter actually has two, that because we're the owners of, the municipality is the owners of approximately 45 kilometers of the trail from Arden to Maberly, and is in the process of working with trail users to revitalize this. That's all it is. They're talking about revitalizing that section of the Trans-Canada Trail. Doesn't say where they're actually working, just that. As we're the owners on that.
But that's the snowmobile club, right?
Yes, it is.
I think for their grooming.
Yes, for their grooming.
Tom?
Thank you, Worship. But here's the problem I've got. We've given EOT a letter of occupation for that portion of the trail. Yet we're trying to go around them by doing our own deals here. I really think it should be EOTA as long as that letter of occupation is in place to actually negotiate with the snowmobile club. So I cannot support that.
Tom, we have worked with Cindy, who is aware of all of these things that we're doing in cooperation, not against. And as a matter of fact, when we said that we were going to come up with this money, she said that maybe she could match it so we could get even more work done. So I'm not sure why you're not on board when in fact this trail committee is actually going to get work done and leverage more money into the trail to help EOTA do their job.
Because I still think the snowmobile club should be dealing with EOTA and not with this committee, because as long as that license of occupation's in place, I still think that we have relinquished our right to go ahead and even though we own the trail, we've relinquished that right through this letter of occupation.
No, we haven't relinquished that right.
Well, anyway, I think
this new. Anyway. Okay, Bill, sorry.
Yes, through Madam Mayor. Am I interpreting the request is nothing more than giving the snowmobile support to apply for a grant, at which they're then going to turn it back over to us to do work. At this stage of the involvement, I think it's nothing more than supporting them with a letter to apply for a grant. Am I correct?
Yes. Yes, but the added part of that is giving Nikki and I the ability to move quickly when grant monies or something needs to be done through the trail committee and EOTA working together. And that's where Tom needs to be reassured. The trail committee is working with EOTA like this, not this way.
Okay.
Okay. All right, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. All right. Was there anything else on other business, Kathy?
No, nothing else.
All right, so we are at the closed session now. So I will read the motion. Moved by Bill and seconded by Philip that council move into closed session pursuant to section 239 to discuss matters regarding 1, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, section 239(2)B, HR matters, and 2, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, section 239(2)B, HR matters. All those in favor?
Now, when we go here, we're going to stay here to finish the meeting?
No, you're going to leave this meeting, and I sent out a Zoom invite for a separate meeting just before this meeting started. So if you can look at your emails about 3:42 to 4, there'll be a Zoom invite for the closed session meeting. And then we'll finish off we'll go into open session from that meeting.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll leave this one and be back.